Capturing the soul of the city with powerful edits is our topic today on Luminar Coffee Break. Let's see what we can accomplish in 10 minutes or less, starting now. Hello, everyone. Now, last week we talked about different ways to capture beautiful cityscapes and street photography, city street photography. Today, what we're going to do is we're going to work on editing some of those images and trying to capture the soul. Thankfully, members of our coffee break team that are actually here now watching live in the Zoom session sent me a couple of their images, and I want to start with that. Now, before I do, let me show you this here. This here is going to be a survey that we're going to be doing. Please take a screenshot of this, copy it, make sure to make a note of this, because the preset that I'm going to use today, so the preset that I'm going to be using today on this is going to be part of that survey. So when you take the survey, you'll be able to receive the free download from the Skylum team. All right, so one more time, here's the survey. There it is. And we just want to hear your thoughts. This is your chance to give us your opinion on what matters and how you use Luminar Neo. All right, so we have that out of the way. And again, the preset I'm going to show you right now will be given to you at the end of that survey. Here we are. We're going to start with my good friend Trish. Now, when I did this edit originally, I did start out. In fact, I'll just walk you through it. I looked at it, and it is dull. So we want to get more of the contrast in. So if I were to keep it in color, watch what I would do. I would do this, come in with the black and white, enrich the tones, bump up the contrast a little bit. It just wasn't really doing it for me. And something about this, all right, that's fine. However, what I really like about this, I'm going to come to my presets, and I use this preset right here. And this is going to be the free set of presets you'll receive from our Skylum team. Now watch. Now notice, by the way, I made changes. Whenever you apply a preset to changes you make, remember it's going to overwrite everything you've already done. That's by design. This way you can focus on what's going on with this preset. So I'm just going to hover over these, and I'm going to pick which ones I feel would really make this look really, really sharp. So I'm going to go over these. Let's see, here's quiet sharpness. You know what? I'm going to go with quiet sharpness. All right. So now that I have it, it doesn't mean I have to stick with what I have. The beauty of this is going to get me there 90% of the way there. And now if you look, this is what it did for us. Well, I'm going to come down here to develop, and I'm going to go in, and I do want to enrich the black tones a little bit, dial down some of the highlights, bump up the smart contrast. Oh, look at that. Now it's taking shape. I am going to come down here to the noise reduction, and I'm going to take care of it here. All right, so now that I did this, I can go all the way up through, and now this is going to be what it's going to look like, right? Well, just that little tweak that we did, but I want to continue. I'm going to get rid of some of these extrusions here, and I want this right here, the city, to be the center of attention. So there's a couple ways of doing it. One way is we rely on our good friend Accent AI, but I'm going to use a global change, making the entire image look good. Then I'm going to go back in and only paint it in where I want. I want it just here in this area. Maybe a little bit more. All right, let's see the difference. Look at that. See how it's bringing attention to that area? So I have that set. Let's put a little vignette in here. Same thing. Click. And I'm choosing my center point. And add a little internal light. Not too much. Look at that. And I'm using the visibility icon here, the preview, just to see if it does make a difference. If it doesn't, I'm going to get rid of it. I like what that's doing. Highlights are still a little blown out. So let's go back to develop again. I'm going to tweak it. There we go, right about there's good. All right, and just add a little more detail to the image. All right. All right, so let's see what we did different. Now that's a little too much, but you know what? I'm going to get rid of it on the bottom half. So here's detail, masking, and I'm using linear gradient, and I'm going to, look, I only want you to apply it to the top half of the image. So apply that detail just to the top half. There we go. I do still see a lot of noise. So before I get into any of the other enhancements, let's just use noiseless AI. Now, I did it earlier with noise reduction inside the develop tool. I just wanted to apply a little bit more in here. This is my personal editing on this. You may do something totally different. Whatever speaks to you, that's the soul. I look at this as a timeless piece. I love the way she captured the greenery or the shrubs, but it's just screaming to me like an infrared type look. So that's why I applied it there. Now, notice it is taking a little bit longer with noiseless AI because I applied it later on into the scene. There we go. All right. Now that I have it here, I know this is a bird, but you know what? We're going to get rid of it. All right, just because it's distracting and it's really not adding to the scene. And then these little protruding. Now I can either crop or just come in here. Let's go a little bit deeper. And I just want to get rid of these. Right there. Erase. And let's see if it makes a big difference. Oh, I missed one. There we have it. And by the way, when you're photographing stuff like this, be mindful of the framing around, that nothing is sticking out. All right, there we go. So there's my version of this. This may not be your cup of tea, but to me, again, that Miller highlight, just the city itself, to me is the soul of what this image is looking for. So let's look at before and after. Here's the original. And there's my interpretation of it. Now let's go on to another one. I'm going to use my good friend's Ben's. Here's Ben. Right away, I'm sorry, Ben. I know what you were doing here with showing us where it is. That sign is very distracting because at first I thought you added it, and obviously you didn't. So to me, that's a little distracting. What's the soul of this image? That guy right there. Look at this. In a hustle and bustle world, there he is on his cell phone walking through this, this used grand concourse. All right. I'm going to go back to that preset again. And once again, I can just look at it. I'm going to come down here and try to find out which one I like. I landed on, by the way, I hearted those or I favored them just so I would remember. Look at that. Oh, I like that too. But you know what? Actually, you know what? I originally picked dust, and I'm going to stick with the dust for now, and I'll tell you why. I picked dust. What I don't like is how it's adding digital noise. So here's the beauty of presets. We can customize them and make them our own. So here's this shot. I like it. And by the way, I actually like the other one a little bit better after I went through it. But because I want to show you how you could customize these presets, what do you do if it doesn't just do everything for you? Go into the edits and think of this as history. I'm going to get rid of that film grain. That's the first thing I'm going to do. Boom, I got rid of it. All right, now let me zoom in a little bit more. Let's look at the noise. Noise isn't too bad. I'm going to look into the shadows. Yeah, there is some noise, digital noise. So where are we going to take care of it? I'm going to come down here to the noiseless because it's at the very bottom. I'll click middle because this is a DNG. Look how much faster that was To remove that noise, let's check what high does. All right. Let me go zoom back in again. Let's look at before and after. Yeah, slightly, but it's fine. It's there. All right. So there we have it. Now, let's really get into this. I love what they do with super contrast. However, I am going to come back here to develop. And as you guessed it, I am going to enrich the black tones. Now, when I do this, I love what it's doing around. I don't like what it's doing to the guy and in here, but that's okay. We've got a little more contrast because eventually I'm going to bump up the shadows. But for now, I'm going to leave it like this. I love what it's doing to the entire image, except that guy. So what I'm going to do is this. I'm going to use a radial gradient. And actually, you know what? No, I'm not. I'm going to use a brush tool. And I'm going to erase the effect right here, just on him. And this guy in the front. There we go. Look at that. So I got what I'm looking for the entire image, except I removed it from him. All right? Super contrast still played a good role. In fact, you know what? I'm going to bump this up a little bit more in the midtones. And I'm just doing this I like what it's doing to the floor. All right? Now I'm going to do all of my edits first, and then I'll address some of these other issues. All right? I want that guy because he's my focus. So let's use our good buddy, the Enhance AI. I'm going to do the global change again. Look what I'm doing. The entire image. But now let's use radial gradient. And I only want it to be applied to this area here. And let's see if it makes a difference. Look at that. So you see how I'm drawing attention? I'm focusing and drawing your eye to the area that I want. Now, because it's non-destructive, I can come in and make further edits. I can even come back in again and double the effect. Do the same thing with the gradient. And here I am. Just apply it just to this area here. Right about there. Yep, I got it. Yeah, look at that. Here's original. I love the color, don't get me wrong. But for some reason, just this timelessness with the black and white just really adds to it. Now, let's add a little structure to it. All right, so I'm going to boost up the structure. Now, I'm loving what it's doing to everything but the ground. So I can make a choice here. I can either use Mask AI, or just to make life easier, just grab the paintbrush and say, look, erase it in these areas here, but keep it everywhere else. Now I get the best of both worlds. Look at that. So the harshness of that steel really, really speaks to me. So I want to bring it out more. All right, now, entirely up to you. You could just say, you know what? Why don't we just crop if you wanted? Get to the crop tool. You would easily just come in and just say, look, you know what? Let's call it a day. There it is. Crop it out. But you know what? That's one way of doing it. All right? But I don't know. To me, it got rid of the grandeur, the huge image of this scene. So I'm going to leave it like this. And what I'll do instead is come over here to Gen Erase. Regular erase isn't going to cut it here. I need to use a generative erase because the other erase tool is only going to use proximity. So what I'm going to do is come in, just make a loose selection, get rid of this. I know Ben's thinking, Vanelli, I spent so long making sure that image that was in the scene. So what I'm going to do is just come in and get rid of it. All right. And click erase. And now at this point, it's gonna take all the edits that we just did, flatten them into a new file, a TIFF. All right, that's why I chose to do this at the very end. Now let's see if it makes a difference. Look at that. All right, and so before and after. There it is. Now, again, just for the sake of this, I would go in and I could even go a little bit deeper and add back in some of those, the metal structure and stuff. But for now, you get the idea of why I got rid of it, in my opinion, was because I wanted all the attention drawn to him. Now, yes, this here would be fixed. But for now, again, that's a totally separate tutorial. I just want to show you what I would do in this scene here if I wanted to keep it the grand design of this. But look at this. See how he is the center focus now? So here, and well, actually, you can't do the original because remember, it went to the Gen Erase. And then from there, I would take it because it is in the Gen Erase right here, the generative creation. I would take it and move it into where I had under City Adventures. I would just drag and drop it into those City Adventures. And now look, there it is. It's inside the original folder that I had it at. All right, let me just show you one more. And by the way, Trish and Ben, thank you so much for sending those in for me. Now, here's the one I used for the cover art. Let's go back to that preset. And look at this. One click, already it made that image look great. I could just come in, and then, in fact, you know what? I'm going to leave the edits. I'm just going to put in develop, and you guessed it. I just think black and white deserves that extra crunch. There we go. And I want to dial down the highlights a bit. Good. Now here's that structure, and because it's human aware, the structure is not going to affect the skin tones of the subjects. I am going to zoom in a little bit, and notice there is digital noise. Let's give it a moment to process. Yeah, look at the digital noise. Again, I could use noiseless AI, or why don't I just come in here and then use this noise reduction. Let's see if that makes a difference. Boost it up just a little bit. Yeah, look at that. Before, after, that did a pretty good job. Now go all the way back to the top. And now I'm seeing everything together. All right? Well, there you have it. Capturing the soul of the city or the cityscapes that you're doing, that's a personal preference. Now, I don't live in the areas that these two took those photos. So, no, I don't know what the essence of that area is. In my mind, I just love the way Trish, when she photographed the city line, I like the black and white. And same thing with Ben. I just liked my version of the black and white on here. For the city, yes, I grew up in the city. So for me, this was a no-brainer. I just love the textures in the background. Just that grit type look that gives you the heart of the city. That's why I chose to use black and white. Then I applied it to the other images there. All right. Now, if you want that free preset, the Skylum team created it for you. Please click on the QR code here, copy it. There is the link to it. If you take that survey, Skylum wants to hear your thoughts, and this is your chance to help shape and mold where Skylum is heading with Luminar Neo. Now, what's really cool is our coffee break team, the people that are here on the live Zoom sessions, they had a huge influence on different features that we added. Focus stacking was one of them. And because of their feedback, the engineers listened, they developed it, and there it is. This is your chance to help us out. I'll give it to you one more time. There it is. Take a screenshot of it. That's going to be up all week up until Friday. So please check it out. And this is your chance to give it out to Skylum. All right. And also here is, if you don't have Luminar Neo, scan that QR code and you can get it And also that'll also give you a discount on Luminar Marketplace. All right. And let me get rid of that for you there. So I hope that was helpful for you. Please leave a comment and don't forget, we're moving over from Luminar Insiders, which is on the Mighty Network, to the new Facebook. Well, not new, but to our Facebook group. And let's see if I have it right here for you. Let's see. Do I have it? I hope I do. There it is. Yep, there's our Facebook group for social media. Please join us, and a lot of you are coming over. We had over 2,000 people sign up last week alone, and that's awesome. Here's where we're going to have a lot of content, and once again, I'm going to ask for your input. What would you like to see more of? I know there's a whole thing about AI. People love it, they hate it, so on. We'll talk about that over there too, but here's your chance to help shape the content. My goal as the Director of Education for Skylum is to have education at your fingertips. And thankfully, I have a wealth. I have a lot of friends that are across the world that have a wealth of information that are willing and able to share their information with you. So I'm going to rely on them to help out. You'll see some of their content over there too. So please, if you're here, stick around for the Ask Me Anything segment. For everyone else, thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you at the next coffee break.